Look at him, eating whatever he wants, never gaining a pound. While I'm stuck with the boring special and can't lose an ounce.
How's your lunch, man?
Amazing. Yours?
So good.
Oh, I'm so happy for you.
Cool, buddy.
Weight loss isn't fair, but Mochi Health is. The affordable GLP-1 source that can fix your frustration with food.
So, same time next week?
No!
Definitely.
And your friends. Learn more at joinmochi.com. Mochi members have access to licensed physicians and nutritionists. Results may vary.
This is the Washington Times front page for Tuesday, April 2nd, 2026. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. In a primetime address, President Trump tried to make his case to a skeptical American public that the war in Iran is necessary to stop Tehran from building a nuclear weapon. Jeff Murdoch and Von Caucane report the president framed the war as necessary to keep America and its allies safe, emphasizing repeatedly the conflict is not about acquiring Iranian oil. Trump's remarks come amid his repeated warnings that fighting will continue for a few more weeks and threats to withdraw the U.S. from NATO, which has frustrated Trump with its unwillingness to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. The president said the U.S. is nearing completion on achieving its strategic objectives in Iran, but didn't offer a specific timetable. His assessment that the U.S. will end the operation in 2 to 3 weeks would put the operation beyond his initial assessment of 4 to 6 weeks, despite his insistence that the war is ahead of schedule. Trump's decision to address the nation underscored his awareness that Americans aren't sold on the war. A recent CBS News poll found that 60% of Americans disapprove of the U.S. military action in Iran, and 67% said they're unwilling to pay more for gas because of the conflict. The Supreme Court debated the legality of President Trump's attempt to block children of illegal immigrants and temporary visitors from getting birthright U.S. citizenship in front of him in a first for the High Court. Alex Sawyer, Matt Delaney, and Stephen Dinan report justices from across the ideological spectrum put Solicitor General D. John Sauer through a gauntlet of questions. They said the text of the Constitution's 14th Amendment, an 1898 Supreme Court ruling, and a century's worth of legal scholarship have cemented the concept that nearly every person born on U.S. soil is entitled to citizenship. The 14th Amendment was ratified in the wake of the Civil War to give freed slaves full rights. It reads, "All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside." The president argues undocumented immigrants and temporary visitors aren't domiciled in the U.S. Trump was in the courtroom for part of the argument, the first time a president has personally appeared for a court session. The Pentagon's relationship with the rest of Washington has, to put it mildly, become complicated. With severe restrictions on media access and limits on how military officials can communicate with Congress, Ben Wolfgang reports the Defense Department under Secretary Pete Hegseth has upended the Pentagon's traditional interactions with other established institutions in D.C. Think tanks, top-level academic institutions, and even some leading defense contractors have been caught up in the Trump administration's overhaul of who should have access to the Pentagon, how the military conducts business, and how its officials interact with civil society. Whether those changes outlast the Trump administration is an open question that could hinge largely on the outcome of the 2028 presidential election. Analysts generally agree that a Democratic administration, or one led by a more moderate Republican, could reverse many of the most restrictive policies implemented over the past 15 months. A Virginia referendum on redistricting appears to be headed to a close outcome in this month's special election. Despite Democrats spending tens of millions of dollars on the referendum, Carrie Pickett reports early voting numbers show ballots cast in Republican districts are outpacing those in Democratic districts. The closer than expected contest has Democratic officials panicking and calling on Governor Abigail Spanberger to do more to motivate party voters to turn out. Similar to measures introduced in multiple Republican-led states, Virginians will decide whether the Democratic-run legislature can override the bipartisan Virginia Redistricting Commission and create a gerrymandered map that would leave the state's Republicans with just one representative in the U.S. House. In-person voting takes place on April 21st. And finally, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders and New York Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez have introduced legislation that would pause the construction of data centers. Susan Faricia reports the progressives want a pause until strong national safeguards are in place to protect workers from losing their jobs to AI, ensure privacy rights are protected, and address the risk of environmental harm. Although the bill hasn't attracted many co-sponsors, it taps into growing opposition from environmental groups and communities fighting data centers. Critics say the centers will automate much of the global economy and eventually kill thousands of jobs, in addition to the strain that they put on local power and water grids. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on social media at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.